Hello, everybody. Eric Apricot here. The Warriors steal Game 1 in Houston. They went up big, but lived up to their team motto, always close enough to hurt, and it got tight in crunch time. Wing pick and roll for Steph. Amen and Aquaman blitz Steph. Play with us forever and ever. Steph with the creative pocket pass to Draymond on the short roll. Jabari Smith has to rotate, leaving Moody. So Moody cuts baseline behind him. Tari Eason with the excellent rotation to cover Moody. Draymond gets in the air and makes this scary inside pass to Moses. Moses is swarmed. He first checks off whether Jimmy's open in the corner, sees Fred VanVleet lurking, and he makes the nice read to throw it to Podziemski. VanVleet has to close out hard. Podziemski attacks the closeout, and this is a bang-bang play that is called a foul on Houston. Houston complaining hard, so Podziemski very helpfully reminds Houston that they can challenge. And in the spirit of bipartisan cooperation, the Rockets accept the friendly suggestion, and Houston does end up losing the challenge. Rockets in horns formation, shooters in the corners, bigs at the elbows, ball at the top. Way screen for VanVleet, signaling hitch a ride on my screen. Moses Moody alertly signals BP to switch. Thompson suddenly goes to screen, and he would be open if Podziemski didn't switch to him immediately. And that means Adams has to thread this pass farther than he wanted to, which lets Draymond makes this excellent steal. First, you've got the chaotic airbending. Podziemski attacks fast, just seeing if the defense will make a mistake and if he can improvise some kind of advantage. When that doesn't work, he pulls out, and Steph Curry points to Draymond saying, run our standard waterbending motion offense, which involves the team flowing from one set pattern to another set pattern. Here, Jimmy knows that this is supposed to be a split cut. BP and Jimmy run at each other. BP cuts, Jimmy pops out. But you know from past videos that Jimmy is an earthbender. Waterbending is flowing away from defensive pressure and finding the open man. Jimmy is about predictable isolations, not going away from pressure, creating your own force, and making the defense crack on impact. Jimmy has a mismatch on Aquaman, so he drives right past him. Jimmy finds the open man. BP runs right through this catch to drive, and Eason does a great job swallowing him up. He gets bailed out by Moses Moody, who's going to cut behind VanVleet, and Moses puts in the clutch, difficult fadeaway jumper. Huge. Houston with the vanilla high pick and roll to force Steph to switch to VanVleet. Steph says, I'm a lover, not a fighter. No need for violence. I'll guard you, Fred. But instead of attacking, Fred bails out and Moses breaks up the play. This is Houston's version of a split cut. Steven Adams in the delay spot. Two players run at each other. One player cuts. One player pops out. Look at this clean switch from Steph and Podziemski. And Steph even does not let VanVleet come up to take the dribble handoff. VanVleet tries pushing him a bit, but Steph goes into rhino mode, and Adams has to go to the other side. Amen drives on Moody, and if Amen can hit this consistently, he's going to be an all-star. Moses Moody steps up to set the screen to force Steven Adams to cover Steph Curry. The Rockets do this a lot. The Rockets very often have Steven Adams or Şengün guarding whoever they think is the weakest opposing player. Then they can blitz Steph, and they're betting that the weakest player can't punish them. In this case, Steph helps them out by throwing a tired pass, and this is off Draymond. But because Podziemski taunted Houston into using their challenge a couple plays ago, Houston does not have a challenge to fix this wrong call. Kerr signals the sideline out-of-bounds play by pointing to his eye. Podziemski also pointing to his eye. Everyone knows they're going to be using their eyeball on this play. Jimmy sets one screen, which turns into a ram screen for Draymond, who's now free to backscreen Steph's defender. And I think this is supposed to go into a real play and not have Steph fire from 35 feet, but Steph is the king of airbending chaos, and for every one wild play, you get more than one miraculous play. Woof. Let's do an emotional wellness check on Amen Thompson. You did all you could, man. VanVleet setting this pin down into a dribble handoff. Draymond plays off Eason, and he helps out by doing this running push shot from the free throw line. That misses so badly. Thompson offensive rebound. Podziemski busts his butt to challenge this. Finally, the Warriors secure the rebound, which is really hard against Houston. They are by far the best offensive rebounding team in the league. Steph still in airbending chaos mode, and he tries to surprise these two defenders by splitting and instead loses the ball. Let's do emotional wellness checks on Steph. And Steve, yeah, about what you'd expect. Houston has numbers. The Warriors try the controversial defense of giving Houston too many players open. Jabari Smith puts his finger up saying, "Make my alley-oop dreams come true." Şengün feels the tyranny of choice and dumps it off to Eason, who gifts the Warriors this huge miss. This should be a set play from Houston, so I'm confused why they're confused what to do. Şengün says, "Enter this to Van Vleet." Smith says, "No, you take it, man. I'm going to set a pin down for Fred." So it eventually turns into this stagger screen for Van Vleet. Draymond ends up switching to cover Van Vleet, which means Podziemski has to cover Şengün. And now Jabari Smith drives and tunnel visions on getting the ball to Şengün. Even if Butler wasn't there, Moody has sunk in, freely leaving Amen, and I think Moody's the one who gets the steal. Water bending time. This is ball to Draymond. Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, split cut. Shining twins haunt Steph. Steph ejects the ball to Jimmy. Jimmy pump fakes to get rid of Eason, but then Şengün either butt wumps Butler in the air, or Jimmy has figured out how to levitate and change directions in midair. Houston attacks fast. Van Vleet is so excited to have this semi-open shot in transition that he hoists it. It was just not his night. Another spectacular offensive rebound, but Podziemski and Moody say, "Excuse me, I believe you have our property." Yoink. The Warriors have numbers, but somehow the spacing is completely off, and Steph, fresh off his recent airbending disaster, decides to play it safe. Moody being guarded by Şengün. Again, Houston has their bigs guarding whoever they consider weakest. Steph accelerates and actually leaves the Shining Twins behind him, so Van Vleet has to come out to guard Steph. And we've got Smith also collapsing in to guard Steph. So Steph has gotten 4 defenders on the ball. His defenders could qualify for many Groupons. Moses is fated to miss this shot, but Podziemski and Draymond Green are basically uncovered due to Houston's Groupon defense of Steph. Podziemski slices in between 2 7-footers for this amazing putback attempt, and Draymond cleans it up. Houston tries a straight post up. Şengün spins by Draymond, gets the foul, and then Şengün cleverly tries to instigate. First, he wanders right up to Draymond and innocently turns around and backs into Draymond. Draymond takes the bait lightly and pushes Şengün. Şengün gives Draymond another shove and then immediately pulls his hand away to conceal his instigation. Şengün now says, "Your new restaurant in San Francisco lacks originality and flavor," and then bumps into Draymond. Finally, Podziemski and Moody step in. Draymond looks like he's keeping his poise, but just in case, Moody and Podziemski form a human wall to prevent any further incident. To be doubly sure, Steve Kerr calls a timeout, goes out to personally escort Draymond. I love this move by Şengün. Şengün hooks Draymond to try to pull Draymond's arm up into him. This exact same move worked last time to make it look like Draymond was elbowing Şengün in the face. Just brilliantly sleazy stuff. Draymond actually gets pulled away by the team's designated driver, Moses Moody. Thank you, Moses. Podziemski steps up for early high pick and roll. Steph attacks before the defenders can get there. 2 on the ball. The sweet pocket pass to Podziemski, who has a runway to the basket. Şengün has to rotate, and that leaves Moses Moody open for the biggest shot of the game. Lots of stuff happened after this, but Houston never got any closer. Let's wrap up with a careful celebration audit.
Şengün will defend. Curry's got it. He and Butler, as I said, 18 apiece. He'll dance. He'll throw up a shot. Oh, goodness.
Are you kidding me?
Geometrically, that should not have happened. Wow.
By the laws of Euclidean geometry, that shot was not possible. However, according to Einstein's general theory of relativity, in the presence of very large masses, local spacetime does not follow Euclidean geometry. Everyone knows about Steph Curry's intense gravity. As Steph makes this shot, Santos is knocked over by the sudden change in space-time curvature. Braxton Key's also showing the effects. Poor Guy has to hold on for dear life. And Buddy Hield over here, his mind is blown. He's thinking, if we're living in a non-Euclidean geometry, which means parallel lines could actually touch, the angles of a triangle might not add to 180 degrees, and it might be optimal for me to take every single shot. That's right, buddy. The possibilities are endless. Just make sure you run your plan by Steve Kerr first. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And if you didn't enjoy this video, I promise I'll do better next time.
Very simple example, just to remind you of a geometry which is not the geometry of Euclid, in which the proposition that every triangle is 180 degrees simply does not hold.